Hello, hello. My name is Michelle Drew, and I am your host here on From a Mess to a Message, where I interview inspiring people who have been through a messy time in their life and they've come through to the other side with a message of hope and inspiration. So, when we become veterans of Earth, we tend to have a lot of situations and a lot of messy moments in our life. And today we have a returning guest today. You're going to love him, Mr. Mustache. So Rick Cheatham, we met at a training in Florida with Nick Santonastasso. We became very quick friends, and I'm actually going to be traveling and staying in Nashville at his Airbnb, and just really exciting to have him back here again. So, Rick, thank you so much for coming back to share more of your bumps and valleys with us, and to educate and inspire our audience. So, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you.
Yes, you bet. Now, we talked before. We kind of dedicated one episode to the loss of your beloved son, Mike, and I know that there have been other challenges that you've had in your life, going back, getting into the fire service and how that all happened, and the challenges there, and marriage challenges, and so many things. So I'm going to really kind of give the floor to you and let you take us back to that time that you were having some hiccups in your marriage and trying to get into the fire service and all the things. So I'm going to open the
Okay.
floor up to you.
All right. Well, that journey begins back in 1985, I believe, was the year. Uh, and I'm sitting in a little church parking lot in the city of Brea, California, after hearing a sermon where a guy challenged me to just ask God for what you want in your life. And the one thing I wanted more than anything is I wanted a wife. And so I started praying for a wife. And I prayed for a wife that was very specific. I wasn't just, Lord, I just pray for a wife. Thank you. Amen. Goodbye. No, I prayed for a wife that was 5'1" to 5'3" tall. I prayed for a wife that was 103 to 105 pounds. I prayed for a wife that had stunning beauty, that her heart, her hair was dark. Her skin was dark complected. She was stunningly beautiful. When she walked into a room, every head would turn. And felt kind of guilty at the end of it because it was all based on my physical desires of what I thought a woman was. So I was just on the outward appearance only. But then I ended the prayer with something that, I don't even know that it just happened. It just came out. And I just said, Lord, I just pray that she will, most importantly, I mean, all the looks and everything were nice. But most importantly, I pray that she will help me become the man of God that you want me to be. Amen. And I just didn't know what that would look like. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what helping me become uh, who I'm designed to be
Yeah,
would look like in the future.
yeah.
So fast forward now 10 years, and this answered prayer of mine tells me I hate you, I hate God, I hate the church, and I quit. And she was taking two small boys, Michael and Kyle, and quite possibly someone else was going to be raising them
Wow.
because of where my life had led in just 10 years after having that prayer answered. And where it led me was I had a lot of fear. I had a lot of trauma, a lot of things that had happened on in my early years, my development years between 1 and 8, where my programming was taking place. And it had created in me a fearful man. I was afraid I was not good enough. I was afraid that I would never amount to anything.
Mm.
Um, I had concerns over my behavior because I had this addiction that I was struggling with and I didn't know how to change it. And my addiction was pornography.
Mm.
And so 10 years of my wife living with somebody addicted to pornography. And it was more than just pornography. I mean, it led down to adulterous affairs, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Um, but going down that road, and finding that my answered prayer not only hated me and the church, and to a certain degree, I can understand her hating me. I totally, I I could associate with that.
I get it as a woman.
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
understand her, hating the church to some degree because they didn't always take her side as valid, or, maybe if you just change your behavior here or there, maybe his eye won't wander. But the part that really was hard for me was when she said, "I hate God."
mm,
And to me, I was I was praying to God that he would bring me somebody like Kelly into my life to help me become who I'm supposed to be. And here 10 years later, I've completely destroyed her mind. I completely destroyed her heart. I completely destroyed her emotion. I completely destroyed her as a woman.
yeah.
And she's ready to quit God too.
Mm,
And that caused me to really focus in on some behavioral changes that needed to take place.
yeah,
Now, fortunately, we were able to find a couple that poured into our lives for the next 3 years and bring about the change that I needed to change.
yeah.
And uh,
Good for
three
Kelly.
years,
Good for
three,
Kelly
and
for
for,
being
yeah,
agreed to do it. Agreeing. I can't
yeah,
even speak. Agreeing to do that. Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, when you've been betrayed at that level, there's an unforgiveness that is so strong.
Yeah.
How do you forgive somebody that's betrayed you?
Yeah.
When you think about it. And that's my journey. I mean, I fortunately had Kelly. She did forgive me. It took a while to earn her trust back, no doubt, and get her to a place where she could uh, live a life without that ever being a part of her decision making
Yeah.
ability with me in her life now. But
Yeah.
the biggest thing that it did for us is that, um, 3 years into our mentorship program, we were praying for another child, and we ended up having a little girl. And
So
this
good.
time, this little girl was born, and it was a representation of the victory that we had in our marriage. So we named her Victoria. So now
Yeah.
my little Victoria is 23, going to be 24 years old. And she's a reminder to me every time I see her that
Yeah.
um, it all began with a change.
Yeah.
And it was a decision that was made with intention
Yes. Ooh,
to,
that's
uh,
good.
to have a life that was different than the life that I was currently living in.
Mm.
And that was okay. So I hate you. I hate God. I hate the church. I quit. I'm walking out with two boys, and quite possibly, Rick, you're going to be dealing with, spousal support, child support. You're going to be dealing with all the mixed emotions that come with somebody else raising your family.
Yeah.
And that's the life that was now in front of me.
Mm.
And fortunately, because Kelly was such that she was able to forgive me, she gave me an opportunity and a second chance to earn that respect back and navigate life with a different intention. And that different
Yeah.
intention was one of learning how to live with the grace of being forgiven.
Yeah.
And
That's
that
huge.
unconditional love transformed my life
Yeah.
in a very powerful way.
Yeah.
And it gave me new hope,
Yeah.
and it gave me new purpose, and it gave me a new vision for who I could be. So I'm
Yeah.
thankful for that. Uh, Unfortunately, I had to, Kelly had to go through some very difficult times herself with
Yeah.
me as her husband. But because of that shift in her mind to love me unconditionally,
Yeah.
she showed me what that looked like.
But we
And
talk about the things happening in our life being a gift. That was, in essence, a gift for her because she can help another woman who might be going through
right,
similar challenges.
right, and I mean, just look at life. All of us understand, life happens in peculiar ways. We get thrown curveballs all the time, but it's how we view those curveballs and how we, that the curveball may catch us off guard. However, we can learn to hit even the curveballs of life too if
Yeah.
we just stay persistent and we stay in our mindset, uh, in a way that we want to learn how to do it instead of becoming victimized by it. And life throws that at us. I mean, I'm sure there's many people on your podcast right now that are listening to us communicate who are struggling, and they hear these words being spoken directly, and they're struggling with their relationship. They're struggling with their career. They're struggling with their finances. You know, they're struggling in their living conditions. They're struggling with their occupation, whatever the case may be. It's such a struggle, but the struggle is designed to produce something in your character if you let it,
Yeah.
if you look for the gift.
Yes.
But it's
Yeah.
too easy sometimes to, rather than look for the gift, it's to look for the reasons why this is happening to me so I can just sit back and become a victim of it.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do. It's easy to
Yeah.
become victimized by your circumstance. And
Sure.
I think what Kelly's role in my life was, she didn't become a victim to what I was doing. She didn't become a victim to what my outside circumstances were
Yeah.
causing her.
Right.
And she chose to say, okay, I'm going to forgive you and I'm going to give you a second chance. And we're going to navigate this because I realize that your addiction is because you have an illness inside of you.
Yeah.
Your addiction is because you have a trauma that you experienced in those formative years between 1 and 8, when we're all being programmed and our unconscious mind takes over. And you've been navigating life like that now. And so when I prayed that prayer to help me become the man of God that he wants me to be, her stepping up to the plate and becoming a reflection of who I was by reflecting back my character
Yeah.
and letting me see it and letting me feel it and letting me hear it and letting me taste every aspect of that character that I had become,
Yeah.
gave me the opportunity to become aware of it and then take the intentional step to change that behavior.
Yeah.
And
Intention is so important. Oh my God.
it's without it,
Everything.
there
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing can be accomplished if there's not intention.
Yes.
If we just let life happen to us and it's just an accident, then accidents become victims. So
Yeah.
we become victims of accidents. We
Yeah.
become victims of other people's actions. Heck, I became a victim of a man who decided to murder my son.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we become victimized by those things that we cannot control because we've allowed our intention to just go on autopilot.
Yeah.
Just like whatever happens, happens, which is probably most of us out there.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, life is just happening to us rather
Yeah.
than for us.
Right.
Sure.
Right. And I know that another thing that you talk about a lot is commitment, the power of commitment. And I would
Right.
love for you to share your journey to get into the fire service and how committed you were to make that happen. I love
Right.
this. Love it.
The power of commitment is actually, it's a book out there. It's the power of commitment. I'm not sure if it's still in circulation or not. Doug Yaman was the author, but he also had a company called Quantum Management,
Yeah.
and it was developed as a way to show people in the real estate field the power of committed people when they are faced with buyers. So, are you going to be just getting a looky loo and wasting all your time showing all this property, or are you going to find somebody who's committed to buy? And the way you find that is by you listening to their language and then you look at the results. And so the power of commitment is always evaluated by the results. And what the results showed me in becoming a fireman was I had to have the persistence to continue no matter what the outcome was that I was experiencing. So back in the 80s and early 90s, when I was becoming a fireman, there was this thing called affirmative action that was kicking my butt. Uh, I just couldn't, I mean, I was too white, I was too male, and I was too old. And I was told that there's no way you could ever become a fireman in today's climate. And through the power of commitment and the lessons that I had learned through Doug Yaman and his organization, I was able to secure a job in the fire service. However, it took 27 rejection letters. So I was turned down 27 times. It took me 6 years to complete 27 rejection letters before I finally got the one that says, congratulations, you were successful. We are going to give you a conditional offer for the city of Anaheim. And when I got that conditional offer for the city of Anaheim, it was like I was flying on cloud nine, because I had just for the first time taking the lessons that Doug had taught, the power of commitment, and I had walked it through to its natural end. And I secured my
Wow.
job and spent 24 years with the city of Anaheim, became a fire captain, became the union president, walked our organization through one of the most challenging and difficult times in our history, and was able to use the power of commitment and those principles all the way through. And
Yeah.
it changed my life. It changed my life forever, because those are the same principles that stuck with me through every adversity that I had faced. And up into including, years later after Mike died, but, 5 months into retirement,
Yeah.
falling and breaking my neck and learning how to navigate life again through the power of commitment and what that was going to represent for me with this new injury.
Right. And you were
And
paralyzed from the neck down when you broke your
right
neck,
when
right?
I fell, I broke my neck at C4 and C5,
Yeah.
and it left me paralyzed from the chest down. Um, I was told that I may not ever be able to walk again. I was told that even if I could walk, there's a good chance that I would never be able to use my hands again, because the injury took place at that area where the nerves uh, penetrate through the spine and start running down your arms. And I was asked this one question when I got out of surgery, 12 pins and two rods later, holding my neck together. They asked me what I want to accomplish in rehabilitation. And I said, I have one goal, and that goal is to walk out of here. I want to be able to walk out of here.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, well, if that's your goal,
Let's
you're going to
go.
have to be pushed, and it's going to take some work. So we went to
Yeah.
work. We went
Yeah.
to work, and using that same philosophy, the power of commitment, um, doing the work, setting the awareness, the intention, having the mindset. 2.5 months later, I was able to walk out of there.
Yeah. And you
And that
kind of
was,
pushed the rehab in a different direction, didn't you? Because of your fire service experience?
yeah, I did. I did. In rehab, you're doing tasks that are designed to help you function in your life now that you're injured. And one of the tasks that they performed on me was the fact that I live in a 2-story house. They wanted to make sure that I could walk stairs. It's one thing to be able to walk with a walker. It's totally different walking up and down stairs with a walker.
Yeah.
So they had me on this little stair stepper thing that was giving me one, like a 2-inch step, and then a 4-inch step, and then a 6-inch step. And then I was able to walk these little steps these little 4 steps that they had in rehab. And what I asked them to do is, where is your staircase in this hospital? I want to go and walk your staircases, your stairwells, because in the fire service we would train in stairwells all the time with hose packs and all of our equipment, and we would walk stairwells to get to the source of where that fire was. So I figured if I got into a stairwell, I would have the mindset of a fireman again and start using that to my advantage. And that's exactly what I did. I got in their stairwells and started to learn how to walk stairs by putting my mindset in the position of being a fireman again.
That was brilliant. That was
It
brilliant for
worked
you
for
to do
me.
that. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So you walked out of the hospital.
Walked out of the hospital 2.5 months later, and everything was going very well for me, except once everybody left, my mind again went back to my injury.
Yeah.
And so no matter how much mindset was getting up and walking out of there through the power of commitment, because I was left by myself at the end, I
Yeah.
was home alone with my thoughts,
Yeah.
realizing that my body's not doing what it once did. I was feeling frustrated. I was feeling useless. I was feeling hopeless,
Yeah.
um, becoming more frustrated, becoming more angry. And I was starting to be, I was starting to fall apart.
Mm,
And my wife noticed it. And she says, uh, I can't do this again.
yeah.
You're going to have to change something here. And so we started looking at things, options to change. One of them was we got involved with a real estate investment group, and that real estate investment group, we went through a mastermind, and through that mastermind, I met a keynote speaker at one of the events, and that keynote speaker was a guy by the name of Nick Santonastasso. And Nick has no legs and one arm, and here I was, a guy overcoming paralysis from the chest down, and now I'm having this conversation with Nick, and I'm still a victim of my circumstance. And I felt like I was useless because I couldn't use my hands like I could when I was a contractor or like I could when I was a firefighter. I couldn't use my body in the same way. So I kind of lost my identity as a man. And as the process goes on, the more you think about something, you support that evidence with the emotions and the beliefs that come around as a result. And so I was digging myself into a pit that I was really useless as a man.
Yeah.
And then Nick just pointed out that I had a lot of value placed on my body. And so he asked me, well, do you think I'm useless? Since I got no legs and one arm and you've got a whole body with everything functioning, my question to you is, do you think I'm useless? And I said, of course not. Of course not. You've got, you're speaking on stage, you're giving people hope, and you're giving, people opportunities to change. And that was the mindset shift that I needed to hear. That was the paradigm shift at that point, was that Nick's got no legs and one arm, and yet he could be of this much value to the world. And here I am with both legs, both arms, and I feel useless because I just can't operate at the same level that I once could. So
Yeah.
that started the journey to a whole different mindset. And 2 years later, here we are.
Yeah.
Um, I'm fired up for life. I'm fired up for what uh, my possibilities are.
Mm,
But most importantly, I'm fired up because I know that most everyone goes through what I went through when it comes to
yeah.
challenges, when it comes to adversities. It may not be a broken neck, it may not be the death of your son, but it may be, the death of a relationship that you were hopeful that would work out. It may be, burying a career and starting all over.
Yeah.
It may be financially, you've lost everything and now you're hopeless and you've got to start all over.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's people out there right now that are listening to us as we talk, Michelle. They're going, dang, yeah, that's me. I've been there. I felt those emotions. I know what it feels like to struggle. I know what it feels like to, not be able to do what you once did. I
Yeah.
know what it feels like to be betrayed. I know what it feels like to be disappointed and discouraged. And I don't like the way it feels. I don't like the way that it puts me, and I don't like where I am. I just want some hope that I can transition out of it. And that's what Nick brought to me. He brought to me hope.
Yeah.
And through that hope, now I get to be an instrument to other people and give them the gift of hope, give
Right.
them the gift of overcoming, give them the gift of triumph, give them the gift of becoming who they were meant to be, which
Yeah.
is the answered prayer that I started this conversation with.
Yeah.
Lord, help me become the man of God you want me to be.
Yeah.
Well, in becoming the man of God that he wants us to be, we carry with that the essence of God. We become God for other people. And I don't mean that we are God. I
Yeah.
mean that we
Yeah.
become the essence of God's love
Yeah.
for other people.
Yeah.
And when we do that, we transfer all of that hurt and all that pain and all that guilt and all that shame into a beacon of light for
Yeah.
the hope of transformation.
Yeah.
And once we start to see that there's hope in transforming our lives out of the victim mentality to one that gives us hope and anticipation for what we can accomplish and how much value we can be for other people in their lives, everything changes.
Yeah.
Everything changes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a paradigm shift that happens on a dime,
Yes.
but we
Yes.
have to be willing to look at it through the lens of uh, overcoming rather than the lens of being victimized by
Right.
it.
Right.
So it's, does life happen to you or does life happen for you? And that's the major message, is that Nick opened the door so that I can look at all the things that I had learned earlier in my life and how I became a fireman,
Mm.
and then apply those same principles and those same beliefs in overcoming the death of my son and then dealing with a broken neck, 7 years after that.
Yeah.
So the two
Yeah.
biggest fears that everybody has is the death of a child and a broken neck.
Yeah.
Those were just areas that gave me the ability to put those things into practice. And as bad as they were, I augured in and I forgot everything that I'd learned. And then Nick just brought that back up around to where I could see it go, you know what? I just got to apply the same principles I did 30 years ago as I was pursuing my career. I just
Right.
have to pursue it now with my faith. I have to pursue it now with my new normal with being a grieving parent, and I need to apply it with my uh, condition I'm finding my body in.
Yeah.
That's not quite as useful as it once was, but it doesn't matter what my body can do. All that matters
Oh,
is what can your mind do, and your mind has the ability to overcome anything.
yeah.
But you just
It's
have to be positioned in the right space, in the right environment to learn those valuable lessons. And that's the beauty about where I am today, is I get to be positioned in a space and create an environment where I can help other people navigate their trials and their troubles and their traumas in a
and
way that's
condensed
positive,
time.
condensed time, because
I
that's what
love
it's all
that.
about. It's about condensing that time. I
Yeah.
mean,
For someone else.
we're,
Yeah.
we're in our 60s, and
Yeah.
in our 60s we've got a lot of life lessons, but we've never stopped learning what those life lessons are. So if we can be around people that have learned these valuable lessons, we can condense the time for them
Yeah.
so that they don't have to suffer in that
Yeah.
pain as long.
Yeah. So true. So true. And how crazy is it for us in our 60s? Our time was condensed by a 28-year-old
Right,
with no legs and one arm, which is
right,
amazing.
exactly
Yeah.
right. And it's because of his understanding
Yeah.
of what life brought to him that was able now to transfer that over and bring it to us, even though we are much older and have been here much longer. He took that same principle and said, we can either be victimized by it or we can become victorious by it. You get to choose. We get to choose that's that intention. We get to
Yeah.
make the intentional choice.
Yes.
Do you want to be victimized by this circumstance, or do you want to be victorious over this circumstance?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it goes back to, the same thing that happened with me in dealing with my marriage and overcoming the addiction that was destroying it.
Mhm.
I I could have been victimized by it, or I could have been victorious.
Yeah.
And I chose to be victorious. And now I have Victoria as my gift that proves that every
That's
single day.
so cool. So cool. I'll bet she loves that.
Well, she does have a tattoo that says, victory is in my veins.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so great. So, is there anything you want to leave the audience with, Rick? I mean,
Yeah. It's all about that mentality of being victimized by your thoughts or being victorious over your thoughts. And it brings it down to me to two things. There's two things that I look through life now through the filter I look through life with is through the lens of fear and the lens of faith. So fear, when we look through that lens, we have the propensity to let doubt creep in.
mhm,
And so when we look through things through the fearful lens, we'll start to examine the result. We'll start to experience the results of that fear. And it comes in the form of doubt and anxiety.
yeah,
And so as we start to look at life through the lens of doubt and anxiety, then we attract doubtful things and anxious things in our life. So we start to attract the very things that we're filtering our vision through.
Right.
And those can augur us into things like anesthetizing ourselves with addiction.
Yeah.
So addiction is operating in life through the lens of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Or now we can choose another option, and that is to live the life of faith, which is looking through the lens of love. And when we look through that lens of love, we look through the lens of faith, and faith anticipates an outcome and it looks forward to an outcome. It can visualize the outcome. And so when we start to look at that, we start to see things have hope. They have value. They have a purpose. And as we start to navigate life with that type of end result, then those things start to naturally gravitate back towards us, and we start to attract those things that are worth anticipating, those things that are worth experiencing, those things that are valuable, those things that get us motivated and get us fired up. And so we start to look at life through the lens of love. And the more that we practice that art of filtering things that happen to us through those one of those two lenses, both have a result that can be measurable, and both can be changed, or both can have a course correction based on how we use the intention of how we approach that decision.
Yeah.
So if I'm in a state of fear all the time, then the result is going to be negative emotions like doubt, anxiety, disappointment, discouragement, anger, resentment, bitterness, jealousy. And
What a
we've all
terrible place to
experienced
live.
those. But we've all experienced it, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
we all
there's
have. Yeah.
nobody that's not
Yeah.
gone through life that hasn't experienced those negative emotions. Well, those
Right.
are results from the lens from which we've interpreted
Yeah.
the event that we've experienced.
Yeah.
So it starts with a thought in our mind. That thought creates an emotion, and then that emotion creates a belief. And that belief creates a behavior, which then creates a result.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the result that we're always focused on, because that's where we can determine, do I want to change that result or not? And if you're not liking the result of the life that you're living, then all we got to do is backtrack to where the belief system came from, where that experience is that created that emotion. And then through that emotion, find out what was it that you were thinking
Mm-hmm.
that created that to begin with. And you can start to change with intention everything about your life.
Yeah.
Same thing is
Yeah.
true on the other side. Love does the exact same thing, except with the difference in that viewpoint is that when you look through it, you start to experience things like joy, like peace, like fulfillment, like
Mm.
passion, like excitement,
Yeah.
exhilaration. Life becomes an adventure that you anticipate rather than it becoming uh, anxious with the experiences that you're fearful about. So you operate at two different levels.
Yeah.
Well, in navigating life, you can have that life. You can have the life you want. It just requires a choice
Mm-hmm.
on how to filter what's happening to you
Yeah.
and letting it happen for you to become a feedback mechanism so that you can accomplish the result that you want.
Yeah.
And when we get the result we want, we get that exhilarating feeling again. And we get that almost like a high, like I accomplished it. I got victory over this. And it
Yeah.
excites us to move on to the next one.
Yeah.
And then the next one and the next one. And so life just becomes an exhilarating adventure of overcoming the obstacles so that we can not only improve our life, but we improve the lives of those around us, including an entire legacy of our family history
Mm-hmm.
that could forever be changed by the way that we program our young ones as they come into this life. Are we going to program them with fear and doubt? Or are we going to program them with love and anticipation?
Yeah. That's
So that's my
beautiful.
message to people today, is that you've got two ways of looking at life. You can look at it through the lens of fear. You can look at it through the lens of love. But
Yeah.
either way, you're going to get the results, and those
Yeah.
results can be measured, and you can make a decision on how you want to proceed at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so, so great. Now, I know that you're mentoring other
Yes.
people, and can you share what you're consulting, how they can
Yeah.
find you?
Yeah. So I started a consulting firm. It's called RK Consulting Group, and we mentor uh, men that are struggling with addiction. We mentor men struggling in their relationships. Kelly and I mentor families and couples that are struggling in their marriage. The best way to get a hold of me is through my email, which is at rkconsulting292@gmail.com. So rkconsulting at 29 or rkconsulting292 at gmail.com.
And I'll type
I
it in
could,
the notes too, so that
okay.
people, yeah.
And I could be reached on Facebook at just look at Rick Cheatham on Facebook and look me up. Or my Instagram account is Ricky C AFD, RICKYC AFD, and I'm on Instagram. So follow me, like my content. Let's see if we can make life a better place for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Rick. This was gold. And I'm so, so glad that that I met you in July, and I know that we're going to be friends forever.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
indeed. The feeling is mutual for sure.
thank you.